Good morning. Welcome back. We are on lesson 3, the hare and the tortoise and the ants and the grasshopper. Let's make it a little closer for you guys to see it. Go. There, much better. Welcome. Think, pair, share. Who are the main characters in the fables we've been reading? So let's think about the characters we have seen so far in the ants and the grasshopper. Well, it was the ants and the grasshopper, wasn't it? What about the hare and the tortoise? It was the hare and the tortoise. Great. We are going to be looking closely at the actions of the characters, meaning what they do. And this will be helpful to learn a new word that can be used to describe one of the characters. So how would you describe the tortoise's movement? Well, let's reread the sentence where this word steadily appears. So let me find here. It says, the tortoise meanwhile kept going slowly but steadily, and after a time passed the place where the hare was sleeping. So let's think about this. The tortoise meanwhile kept going slowly but steadily. What do we think steadily means? It means slowly, going at a certain pace, right? Okay. Well, steadily means to keep moving in a regular way. The tortoise didn't stop, he just kept moving steadily. So, acting out. Can you act out stomping around your room? Okay, good. And then moving directly from one spot to another normal place. You could see a difference, couldn't you? Yeah, who moved more steadily, the tortoise or the hare? The tortoise did, didn't he? Because he just walked at his normal pace. He just leisurely walked, whereas the hare just like zipped through, right? Yes. Okay, so steadily means to keep moving at a regular way. Let's clap syllables for steadily. Steadily. So we're going to say the word steadily, and we're going to clap out the syllables for it. Steadily. How many syllables was that? 3. Great job. So our content framing question is, what does a deeper exploration of the main character's actions reveal in Aesop's fable? So that means we're going to dig really deep into our story about their actions today, okay? So we're going to pay really close attention to that in today's lesson, their actions. So we're going to be studying only the actions of grasshopper and tortoise because we identified the problems that these two characters had in the story maps. We're going to annotate handout 1A. Now, you may or may not have that handout, which is this right here. It's the story of the ants and the grasshopper, okay? That is what I'm reading from. The ants and the grasshopper were the grasshopper's actions. So you're going to follow along as I read. So if you don't have one, just listen to me, okay? And we're going to think aloud to identify one of Grasshopper's first actions. So if I'm reading here, one bright day in autumn, a family of ants were bustling about in the warm sunshine, drying out the grain they had stored up during the summer. When a starving grasshopper, his fiddle under his arm, came up and humbly begged for a bite to eat. So what was the first thing that Grasshopper had done? He had his fiddle under his arm, didn't he? Now, this is not essential to the story, So let's see what happens next. He came up. After he had his fiddle under his arm, he came up. Now, that is important, isn't it? So we're going to underline that came up in your story with a colored pencil. And then we're going to write this on an action chart. Now, I've got an action chart over here that we're going to be filling in on Grasshopper. So this is our action chart here, all right, that I have created. Let me get my marker here. So I'm going to write on here, Grasshopper came up to the ants. Grasshopper came up to the ants. That's one of his actions, right? That he came up to the ants. So I've got that on my chart. All right, so let's move forward and see what else. So let's look at the list of actions. What do the grasshopper's actions reveal? So let's think about his actions. He humbly begged for a bite to eat. So what did he do? He was begging for a bite to eat. So guess what we're going to write over here on our next action? Grasshopper begged for a bite to eat. Wow. Okay. So remember, Grasshopper's actions show that he played instead of preparing winter, which caused him to be hungry, right? Okay. So let's move on. So what did Grasshopper do next? He says, I didn't have time to store up food, right? So what did he do? He whined that he was too busy making music. So Grasshopper whined about not having food. He just played his music. Okay, so I'll bring that up so you can see it a little bit further. So we've got one action, he came up to the ants. Next one, he begged for a bite to eat. And his third action, he whined about not having food. He just played his music. Okay, so those were his actions in the story. Now we're going to look at the tortoise's actions in that story. So what are actions? They're things they do. Okay, so we're going to read aloud the fable and we're going to underline the tortoise's actions with a colored pencil. Well, if you don't have a copy, that's okay. You can just follow along with me and we can record the actions on our actions chart. So the hare and the tortoise. So we're going to be looking at the tortoise's actions. All right, the tortoise's actions. A hare was making fun of the tortoise one day for being so slow. Do you ever get anywhere? He asked with a mocking laugh. "Yes," replied the tortoise, "I get there sooner than you think. I'll run you a race to prove it." The hare was so much amused at the idea of running a race with the tortoise, but for the fun of the thing, he agreed. So the fox, who had consented to act as judge, marked the distance and started the runners off. The hare was soon far out of sight, and to make the tortoise feel very deeply how ridiculous it was for him to try a race with a hare, he lay down beside the course to take a nap until the tortoise should catch up. The tortoise, meanwhile, kept going slowly but steadily, and after a time passed the place where the hare was sleeping. But the hare slept on peacefully, and when at last he did wake up, the tortoise was near the goal. The hare now ran his swiftest, but he could not overtake the tortoise in time. So now, let's think about the tortoise's actions. The tortoise's actions. Let's record those now. So I'm going to pause this for a moment. Now let's think about the actions of the tortoise. Okay, so what was one of the actions of the tortoise? He listened while the hare made fun of him, didn't he? The tortoise actually listened, and he didn't say anything. Tortoise listened of him. So the tortoise listened as the hare made fun of him. That's not very nice, is it? So what's another action that the tortoise did? Tortoise challenged the hare to a race. Wow, that was brave of him, wasn't he? Tortoise challenged hare to a race. Yeah. Well, what was another thing the tortoise did? In that race, he kept going slowly but steadily. Tortoise kept moving slowly but steadily. Good. Okay. And what's the last thing tortoise does? Oh, yeah, he wins the race. He wins the race because he was moving slowly but steadily. Great. Okay, so I'm going to move that over here to the side. All right. So now we've recorded all the actions on our actions chart for the tortoise. Good. So what do the tortoise actions reveal? Well, think about that. What do they reveal? It showed that he kept trying. He didn't give up with the hare at first, okay? Just because he was slow, he didn't lose the race. And it revealed that we can win the race if we keep going, if we keep trying. So that summarizing the important learning that even though tortoise was so much slower than the hare, he kept going slowly and steadily. This allowed him to beat the hare, who moved faster and unsteadily. So he wasn't very steady when was he? Because he decided he was going to sleep. So we're going to be adding parts of the informative paragraph about real animals to better understand how an informative paragraph works. Okay, so you do not have that paragraph, So we're going to kind of skip over that, okay? So what do stories or fables tell us? Well, they're trying to teach us a lesson, aren't they? Fables teach us a lesson about things, like the hare and the tortoise. Slow and steady wins the race, right? And then with the ant and the grasshopper, work before you play. So think about stories. There's lessons built into stories also. So make sure when you're reading your story or your lessons that you're looking for the underlying meaning. Why did the author write this story for? Okay? So what do informative texts tell us? They give us information, don't they? They do give us a lot of information. So why is the structure of our informative paragraph important? So think about our paragraph. You know the hamburger? Why is that important? Because it gives us facts and details. An informative paragraph gives us things that we need to learn. It gives us a topic sentence, which is the top bun, gives us the facts and the details, which is the juicy stuff, and then it gives us the conclusion, which is the bottom bun. All right? So when we're writing a story, we need to make sure we have some juicy stuff in there to tell about what we're writing. So let's look at our hamburger again. I will give you another glimpse of that. Okay, so here is our informative paragraph about the hamburger. Topic sentence, that's what the story's about. The facts and the details, that's the good juicy stuff. Then we have the conclusion, which is the bottom bun, which holds everything together. All right, so you will see this more and more throughout our lessons, okay? So let's look at our next part here. So why is it important to remember that stuff? Because when we go to write an informative paragraph, we need to know how to write one, don't we? We need to know we need a topic sentence. We need to know that we need some facts and details in there, and we need to know that we have to have a conclusion on our story also. So, topic statement, information, and conclusion. So, let's think about topic statement. It's what the sentence is about. Information, that's the details and facts, and conclusion, that's how we end our story. So, you do not have handout 3A. Handout 3A would look a lot like this. Okay? So I have it up here on the board, already typed out for us, and you guys are gonna help read this with me. All right, it's called tortoises. Tortoises are reptiles. Tortoises have large scales on their body. Tortoises have a shell. They lay eggs. Tortoises do not like cold weather. Tortoises are interesting reptiles. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to think, pair, share the answers to this question. What is the topic statement in that paragraph? And it says, how did you determine the topic statement? And we're going to underline it with a light green crayon. Well, I'm going to use my trusty light green marker to underline it. And I already have this written out, typed out for us on chart paper so we can look at it. So we have tortoises. And I'm going to read it again because we have to find the topic sentence to this. Tortoises are reptiles. Tortoises have large scales on their body. Tortoises have a shell. They lay eggs. Tortoises do not like cold weather. Tortoises are interesting reptiles. So what would be our topic sentence there? What is that whole story about? Good. Tortoises are reptiles. So I'm going to take my light green marker crayon and I'm going to underline tortoises are reptiles. Great job. Okay. So now we need to decide from this point, what are the facts and details about this story? What are the facts about tortoises or reptiles? Well, tortoises have large scales on their body. Does that say that they're a reptile? Yeah, it kind of does. Tortoises have a shell. Does that let us know it's a reptile? Yeah. They lay eggs. Yes, because reptiles lay eggs. Tortoises do not like cold weather. Yeah, most reptiles don't like cold weather. So are those the facts? That's the juicy stuff? Yes. So we're going to underline it in orange because I do not have a yellow marker. So I'm going to underline tortoises have large scales on their body. Tortoises have a shell. They lay eggs. Tortoises do not like cold weather. And that's my facts and details. That tells about this up here. Now this sentence down here is called what? The last sentence. It's called a conclusion. It ties together the topic sentence. So it says tortoises are interesting reptiles. Does that restate that tortoises are reptiles? It sure does. So we're going to use our dark green marker because that's what we mark our conclusion with. And we're going to underline in dark green. So now we have annotated our paragraph on tortoises. We have our topic sentence in light green, our facts and details in orange, and our conclusion in dark green. Great job on annotating that, guys. So let's check our chart up here. So, why is it important to include information like facts in an informative paragraph? Well, think about it. It's an informative paragraph, so we know an informative paragraph has to have information, doesn't it? It has to give us information. So, with our tortoise paragraph, did it give us information about tortoises? It sure did. It told us that they laid eggs, that they don't like cold weather. It told us other things also, that they have scales on their body. They have a shell. So it gave us things that we wanted to know. So let's see here. Let's move on because it said add that paragraph to your response journal, but we do not have that, so you can't add it to your response journal. What does a deeper exploration of the main character's actions reveal in Aesop's fable? Well, we dug a little deeper today, didn't we? Because we were talking about the actions of two characters. We talked about the grasshopper and we talked about the tortoise, about their actions. So how did annotating the actions of the tortoise reveal more about the story? Well, when we annotated our story over here about the tortoise, did that kind of help you understand more about how the tortoise felt in the story or how he moved? Maybe a little bit. We found out that he doesn't like cold weather and that he has a shell and that he's a reptile. And we know some reptiles move fast and some reptiles move slow. All right, but did it help give us any other information? No, not really. It didn't. So next time when we read, we're going to figure out what lessons the story is teaching. So we're going to talk about what it's teaching us. we're gonna add steadily to our journal, and we're gonna draw a quick sketch. So get that journal out, write steadily at the top, S-T-E-A-D-I-L-Y, steadily, and then just draw a picture of what steadily means. Remember, steadily means moving at your own pace. So draw a quick sketch there. And then remember to continue your reading at home. So, shades of meaning for move. Remember, we read that poem about fish and all the different types of movement, right? Well, we had word cards that talk about movement. And what we're going to do is we're going to think about how the author described the fish moving. Think about how the fish moved. It scurried, scampered, it whizzed, it hurried. Okay, so all those words tell how the fish moved, right? Okay, so because I don't have cards to show you those. So what I want us to do is, how could we act out steadily? Think about steadily. How could we act that out? We did it earlier, didn't we? It's just walking at a general pace, right? But every animal, remember, moves steadily in a different way, or every person moves steadily in a different way. So we have to decide on that. So let's use our word cards that we have in our lesson today. I know you do not have them. It's these cards here. They're movement words. You have flit, hurrying, swerving, flit again, racing, scurrying, curving, and racing. All right, you've got 7 words because I'm not going to do flit twice. We'll just do it once. And what we're going to do is we're going to think about which one of those is the slowest and which one of those is the quickest. When you're sitting there thinking about these words, how would you put them in order? So I'm going to pause this a moment, and I'm going to write these words up here on the board so you can see these words. You have the word flit. You have the word hurrying. You have the word swerving. You have racing, scurrying, curving, and race. Oh, we've got racing twice, so we don't need racing again, do we? Okay, so we just have 6 words that we need to put in some kind of order from slowest to quickest. So thinking about these words, flit probably means like a jerk or something. Hurrying, swerving, racing, scurrying, and curving. So what do you think would be the slowest? Maybe like a flit? Yeah, I would think that. Okay, what would be your next one, you think? Hurrying, swerving, racing, scurrying, curving? I would probably either say swerving or curving, wouldn't you? Because if you swerve, you kind of swerve away, or you curve. Okay, so let's write swerving and curving. Swerving and curving. And I'm going to mark those off so that way I know I've done them. So now we're getting a little bit faster. So what would be our next one? Hurrying, racing, or scurrying? Ooh, hurrying, you're right. Hurrying would be the next list. Hurrying, good. And then scurrying or racing. Ooh, scurrying, yes. Oh, and then our fastest one would be racing. Oh, you guys are so smart. Racing. So we put our words in order from slowest to quickest. We went flipped, swerving, curving, hurrying, scurrying, racing. Great job. Great job. Well, there we go. All right, so let's move on. So we decided which words means to move the slowest, and we decided which ones move the quickest. And we put all those words in an order, and we call that shades of meaning for different movement words. That's what we did. We placed them in an order. Now, was that order the correct order? We don't know, because everybody thinks of a word differently. And we did that one together. You may decide that maybe curving and swerving needed to switch places, or you may have thought that hurrying was quicker than racing. It's your choice, but you kind of have to go with what you know too, okay? So we just went over those words and we did put them in order. So that was our shades of meaning for the movement. And that was the end of our lesson. So guys, you worked really hard today. Thank you for working so hard. And I will see you again tomorrow for lesson 4. Bye.